Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and today I wanted to make a video about the Great Push. I thought this was a really great event, thought there was a lot of good stuff going on with it. I thought the format was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend going and checking out the VODs. I think it was really cool. But the most commonly requested thing to talk about, of course, is the permanent misdirection bug that was used by Echo, who ended up winning the tournament, to win the tournament. So I figured that I would make this video, not the least so that I could have something I could link as a exclamation point command in my chat for when the millionth person comes and asks about it in my stream. So if that's you, if that's why you're coming to this video, welcome. Thanks for coming and watching this. And so I wanted to give a little bit of context and help people understand some things about this. I don't actually have that strong of an opinion about the specific thing here. I have much more strong opinions about like what should be the policy going forward than how this specific thing should be handled. But I think that there are a lot of people out there who do have knee-jerk reactions in one side or the other. And I wanted to make this video to give you some context that might help you at least further, understand and update your view with more information, because I think that is something that, particularly if you just are new to watching Mythic Plus, there's a lot of stuff that is built into the kind of the history of the format that is relevant for this. So let's start off by talking about what happened. Echo found, actually they didn't find this misdirection bug, but they were the first to figure out how they could use it to have a dominating strategy in Plaguefall. And by dominating here, we mean they could do a 28, and every other team topped out at 27 in there. So one key level better than what the standard strategies could do. And the way it works is by permanent misdirection effect. So in dungeons, if you cast and then cancel misdirection, apparently you just keep the misdirection benefit. Misdirection just doesn't do what it says on the tooltip under those circumstances. So where it says beginning with your next attack within 30 seconds and lasting for 8 seconds, it literally just could say for the rest of the dungeon, right? In the second part of this tooltip. And so they use this to then position their hunter right next to where the Plague Borers spawned, hit mobs, and then feign death. And then the mobs would just teleport over to the person who had been misdirected to, because they were the only person on the threat table now. And that would be a really good way to kill basically the whole dungeon. This wasn't like easy to do by any stretch. It's not like it made the dungeon free. I've seen people suggesting that was the case. It wasn't. This is a very high intensity, still skill-based strategy, but it certainly was better than the other strats in this dungeon, right? Assuming that all strategies were equally allowed or whatever, this was the best strat, right? This is the best way to do the dungeon. So there was definitely advantage being gained here. And then so the idea was to snap the Plague Borers using the misdirection. There have been a couple other ways that the Wowhead guys tried to replicate it, and the permanent misdirection way was the only way to do it. And if you watch Fragments' VOD, you can see that's exactly what they're up to. They cast a misdirection. Here, you watch closely. Cast, and then, oh my god, it's so fast. Cast, and then canceled, right there. You can see the misdirection logo, cast, then canceled. A couple people have pointed to this as being evidence of guilt, the fact that it was canceled so fast, but, like, it literally only works if you do cancel it. If you cancel the misdirection effect, then you get it for the rest of the time. So it makes sense that you'd want to cast it and then quickly cancel it. Have it in the same macro. Smash that button twice in order to make it work. So that's what Echo did. That's what the strategy they used to win the tournament. And there has been uproar about, is this bug abuse? Is this exploit? Should there be consequences for Echo? Or is it all fair in Mythic Plus? Is everything allowed? And if your answer is a clear yes or a clear no, I have some points that I think will be hard for you to answer. So let's go through them. Let's start by looking at the rules here. This is the relevant clause in the MDI rules. Any intentional use or attempted use by a player of any bugs or exploits in the game may result in a forfeit of the match and disqualification from the tournament. Blizzard, at its sole discretion, will determine bugs and exploits. So you could read this just by reading this first sentence and say, okay, well, that's clear, right? Intentional use of a bug, bang, problem solved. You could also read this just by reading the second sentence and be like, well, Blizzard's discretion. And Echo asked Blizzard, which they did. Echo asked I actually don't know. I don't have the full text of what they asked specifically. So I know that there was a conversation between Echo and the admins. I don't know the full things about what was said, and that's probably a relevant thing for Blizzard at this point. But, Blizzard at their discretion, right? They allowed it, so, bang. Also problem solved. So this paragraph is not providing us too much help. So let's look at some context from things that have happened in previous MDIs. One very common strategy in MDIs revolved around misdirection not functioning like it says on its tooltip, or actually Tricks of the Trade as well, having a similar issue, where it redirected threat for a different amount of time than it said on the tooltip. That was the core behind the Toll-to-Gore cannon strategy that teams used. Every team. I picked just the first one I could find on YouTube, but every team did this in Toll-to-Gore, where you'd have somebody hop in the cannon, and they cast misdirection, and then instead of it doing this thing where it converts to an 8-second or 6-second or whatever it was in BFA buff, you just could keep using it and keep shooting your cannon and redirecting threat to your tank for the entire time that you were in there until the misdirection buff fell off. You could hop out and apply it again. And not every cannon use in every MDI run went much longer than 8 seconds, but almost all of them had shots redirecting threat long past where misdirection was supposed to, right? So given that's not the behavior on the tooltip as well, right? That's also something that it's kind of similar. Obviously, it's pretty different to have something that lasts an entire dungeon and you can formulate a whole strategy around versus something that happens like in a couple of specific pulls. So maybe that's a crucial difference for what you think should be allowed and what shouldn't. But it's not like there's never been a misdirection bug that changes how long the time has been on the effect. Some other stuff that has been bugs, certainly, clearly, right? Things not working the way intended or in some weird way that are allowed in Mythic Plus tournaments, or at least have been historically. To qualify for the Great Push, Bear Squad, one of the other teams, so not Echo, used this strategy to make Amarth not reset, but also come down out of his boss room so that he wouldn't do mechanics. So he resets if you pull him over the other side of the room, right? If he crosses over the door on the normal entrance of the room. But if you can grip somebody down from the other side of the room, then you can get down here and you fight Amarth, and you get to fight a much easier version of the fight. You can see there Amarth interrupting his ability, and just sitting here and now autos the tank. We don't have any ads spawned or anything like that. And this was the strategy that the Bear Squad used to secure their qualification into the Great Push event. That's how they got their highest Necrotic Wake key. That was their Necrotic Wake strategy. Involved pulling a boss to a position where it doesn't do mechanics. A core strategy in Waycrest Manor last season was to have somebody stand in a spot where all the ads couldn't jump on them, right? You jump on top of like a candle holder, and ads can't target you as long as you're the farthest person, and so they just don't do their mechanic at all, right? So those sorts of effects are pretty common historically. Another type of thing that is certainly not intended behavior, right? That's like a bug that people use is pre-buffing. Obviously, there's pre-resource gathering, pre-using cooldowns, and then starting a key. That's pretty standard. But this is taken to another level in a lot of cases as well. Here's, for instance, Ambition in Great Push. Have a strategy in Halls of Atonement that involves mind controlling a gargoyle before starting the key, which gets you here, if we look, 45 seconds of a damage reduction effect. And also popping a Ashen Hallow and, or actually not popping an Ashen Hallow here, but you get the Refined Palette and then you can swap to the other one right before starting the key as well, and you get a benefit of 2 Soulbind traits effectively as well. So those sorts of little resource things, little pre-key starting stuff has worked out and has been allowed, has gone unfixed for M+ in the past. There have been other things that have gotten fixed, but gotten fixed slowly. In Freehold, last expansion, you could kill Trothak, you could kill Ludwig on Mythic 0, and then start the key. And then if you'd killed Trothak on Mythic 0 and you started the key, you could go pull Trothak. Sorry, you killed Ludwig on M0, and then you could kill Trothak without killing Ludwig on the M+ run, and that saved a lot of time because Ludwig took a lot of time and didn't give a lot of count and stuff. So that was a strategy that that was the first time, the first season I was pushing M+, was the season that came out, and my initial reaction was, oh my god, you guys, this is clearly a bug. This is clearly an exploit. We can't do this. And so for 2 months, I told my team, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not trying to get banned. And then 8 months later, the bug was still in the game, and I realized all I did during those 2 months where I was unwilling to do that strategy was cost my team score, right? Cost my team keys that we could have timed. And so that was when I first kind of got the learning that, like, okay, there's a different set of rules for raid and M+, right? Dungeon stuff is not treated the same way. Another example of this was like in Temple of Citralis last expansion, you could, for a couple weeks, people figured out you could go through the dungeon on M0 and then all the doors would be open. So you could go to the last boss first on M+, and then U-turn and come back through the dungeon with a huge damage buff from the last boss. And Blizzard fixed this after a couple of weeks, but no consequences came to any players who abused that. Several world record keys were set in that Temple of Citralis, and eventually Raider.io went through and voided each of those runs for their score system, but Blizzard took no action on their end against that at all, right? They fixed the bug eventually, and nothing ever happened to players who used it. So I guess what I'm saying here is that there's a long history in Mythic Plus of things like this being allowed. And so in this specific case, particularly given they asked Blizzard, I think, how they asked Blizzard, what exactly was said between the two is relevant, but I think that the anger here should not be directed at Echo. But I do think it's reasonable for everybody to be like, hang on a second, Blizzard. Should Mythic Plus be like this? Should there perhaps not be some developers that, make it so that players actually feel like they shouldn't abuse bugs in Mythic Plus, and that, it's not, you won't have that experience I had with the Ludwig bug, where I intentionally didn't abuse it, reported it, heard nothing from Blizzard, and then 8 months later it was eventually fixed, right? And I just not been using it for too much of that time and costing myself, results, right? And got no benefit, right? Nobody who abused it had anything bad ever happen to them. Nobody who's abused a Mythic Plus thing has ever really had anything bad happen to them. Should that be the paradigm or not? And I would actually argue that no, they should come into here and be like, okay, hang on. We want to, like, some sorts of things are allowed and some aren't. And I think that permanent misdirection effects probably shouldn't be allowed long term. I think that this sort of thing, like if you can find a way to get yourself a buff that lasts an entire dungeon, that shouldn't be allowed. I think that if you can do something before the key starts and get a benefit from it, they should fix that, but it should be allowed until they fix it. I think if you can pull a boss outside of its arena to prevent it from doing mechanics, that shouldn't also be allowed in a tournament, and they should fix that. So that's my set of positions, right? Is that there's some stuff that they should just allow and not fix. There's some stuff they should allow but fix when they can, right? Like this pre-buffing stuff. And then there's some stuff that they should neither allow in tournaments, and then they should also fix it immediately as soon as they can, right? And I think the Amarth thing and the Misdirection thing fall into that category for me. But that's a question of, like, forward-looking policy, right? I think that it's important to say, like, in terms of what should happen in this instance, it's not fair to be like, okay, we need to change the rules. Let's retroactively hold people to a different standard than I think they very reasonably understood and also asked the admins about in this tournament. So that's where I'm at with this. I hope this video helped clarify some things for you. I hope it brought up some interesting questions that explained maybe some parts about things and told some good stories, at least, about the various wacky bugs that M+ has had. I am speaking just as myself. I'm not, I know I cast Blizzard events, but I am not a tournament admin or anything like that, and there's a good chance they'll go a different direction with this than I would, so that's just my opinion. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.